And until it comes on, there we go. Yeah. I'm going to switch that one. That's a little bit too hypey. Okay, this is upbeat. Let's do it. Cool. I don't think I'm sharing my other screen yet, which is good because I have things that no one is supposed to be looking at on my other screen. I mean, not like super secret stuff, but conversations with my team. So let's close that. Let's get the other screen ready. Okay, and we're going to share that screen. And on that screen, whoa, thought there was a bug on me. On that screen, we are going to open up VS Code, make sure that's something that I can also share. It was not, so let's make sure that that project is good to go. All right, bring that over. And as part of this project, I'm going to open up a terminal in here as well. And it's going to take a little while. So at least I have music to keep me entertained. Man, I don't know what the deal is, but WSL, VS Code on WSL takes a while. Well, anyway, I can get my server set up. We're going to go to localhost 3000, which is not going to actually do anything until this terminal can respond. It looks like we're unpacking at 60%. What is this? It's not even going to tell me what it's doing. Okay. Cool. I think that means it's working, right? I don't want to see that now. Now I have access to my code. Now all of my VS Code stuff is going to start running its stuff. And we're going to have a bash terminal open up. Okay, cool. That means I can run my dev command and I can let that run. In the meantime, where are we? We have this delete route I don't need. We have this route on listing my pets, I believe. And eventually Remix is going to run. Woo! I need to remember to get this set up before I start streaming because this takes a while. All right, well, anyway, let's look at what we've got. I have an application where I'm listing pets in my neighborhood, and this will allow me to add pets and remove pets and edit pets, not from the neighborhood, obviously, but from this system. So we were covering create, read, update, and delete, and that's what we've got. And I need to modify my route structure, I think, because I want a page that lists them. There we go. Now we can see our application. Reload. Should be loading here in a minute. Hopefully not a minute. Any second. There we go. Cool. So we have our pet manager. It shows the list of pets. We can view each individual pet and we can edit them. I guess I would just make a change and then edit it. And then I can delete it. And if we look at the second one, we can delete the second one. Cool. That's all fine. I actually am going to change a little bit of my layout here, where on the home page, I'm going to list the pets. And then I'm going to create another page called I guess create. Yeah, it's going to be a page at /create, so I can get rid of showing this list of pets. And I do want to show this list of errors for the time being. And we're going to say add a pet. Okay, we no longer need the loader information, which means since we're not using use loader data, we're not going to pull it in from here. And since we're not, I guess, or the link I will keep. Since we are not using the loader data, we don't need to export this loader, which means we do need the rest. I do want this function for creating the data. I do want to pull in the action. I don't need the action data actually, because what I want to do is create a user or create a dog and then return a redirect. So I need from remix/node, I need redirect, please. And what this action is going to do is return the redirect that's going to take us back home. Cool. Which means we don't need the user. And I will need the link. Any particular goals for today? Yes, I'm going to do some restructuring. And then what I want to focus on is what is a problem when we have too many items that we're trying to list. So or too many items in our database. So if we have thousands of items, we probably don't want to show them all on the same page. That would be a slow query for the database to respond with. That would be a lot of extra data to send over the wire, which would probably impact the performance of the network request. And that would affect how much data the user has to download. And if they only want to see like the top 3 and they're not going to look at everything, then they're downloading unnecessary data. So we'll fix that with pagination. For the time being, I'm going to change my structure of the page so that I'm not going to have the creation and the list on the same page. So let's go. We're going to add a pet. We're going to move the form over here. That's the add doggo link or form. We're going to have a button down here. It's not actually going to be a button. It's going to be a link. It's going to go to the home page, and we're going to say cancel here. Then on the home page, we're going to get rid of the form. You have no idea. There does feel like there's like 1,000 doggos. So, I mean, I'm blessed in that sense, but yeah. So let's get rid of the action data since we're not performing any action on this page. We're just listing the doggos. Yo, am I building dogs of dev? That is a good question. No, I'm building NPM, the neighborhood pet manager, because I can't tell you how many times we've had a dog. You semicolons or you shoot. Now, I can't tell you how many times we've had a dog come through the neighborhood and I literally call the pet owner Charlie's mom, or I don't know, what's the other, Atlas's dad. Those are a couple dogs in my neighborhood. So yeah, not necessarily dogs of dev, just a very localized thing so that I don't sound like I don't care about learning people's or dogs' names or pets, cats too. But what is up, y'all? Let's see. So let's look at what we've got so far. I'm rebuilding this page. And do we have some sort of error? We do have an error. Export action. Ah, that's right. Because my root is expecting the action coming from index, and this should now be from create. At least you know the dog. yeah. I mean, we probably realistically, we probably have like 50 dogs that come to. I live one block away from a park, and I've probably seen like 50 different dogs there. And I told myself I was going to memorize every dog's name, and I failed miserably because then springtime came along, and we had like a whole bunch of different dogs show up. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, the main idea is to like learn about database stuff here, right? Okay, so we have the link, or we have the list of dogs on the home page. And then in root, I also want to modify this so that we have a link to the homepage, and then also maybe a link to the create page. And I can already see that because I'm repeating code here, I actually want to change this to be like nav links dot map, and then we'll do link, and then that's going to return this li. And for each nav link, so we need to do something up here. We're going to go const nav links equals an array having a out to the park status, so other owners can join up for doggy play dates would be nice. That is a good idea, but that is an interesting question because that introduces something that I was thinking about, which is user accounts. So essentially, do I want this to be an app that only I have access to? And that would very much simplify the data management because I could just add and remove things as I need. If I want to introduce other users, I don't want anyone else necessarily to be able to add dogs. And I definitely don't want anyone else to be able to delete dogs, right? So I think we'll get into that eventually. The user, like to have authorization, we then also have to have authentication. Authorization is answering the question, can this user do XYZ? Authentication is, who is this user? And in addition to that, we'll probably have to touch on cookies, and it's going to get a little bit hairy. Like that's a very deep rabbit hole, but I think we'll get into that. So for each nav link, I need to have a 2. So this one's going to be that, and I need to have a text, and this one's going to be here. I'm actually going to change this to just home. There we go. And then we'll have another one of these for 2 is going to be /create. And the text is going to be create. We'll start with that. So for each nav link, we're going to take the link and we need to add a key to the list. Yeah, that is the cool stuff. It is the cool stuff to do as a developer. It's also the stuff that's really, really tedious. And once you get into authorization, authentication stuff, then that's when I'm like, oh my gosh, security, super important and scary stuff, which I've done several times, but it always feels like I'm doing it kind of wrong. So we're going to say the key is the link.to because I don't think we should have multiple routes. Like I think that the path that it's going to link to should be unique, so that should work well enough. And then 2, we're going to set that dynamically instead of statically to link.to, And then the content will be link.text. Cool. Hit save. Go back and whoops. What have we got here? We have the WebSocket issue again. Which means I need to restart my server. Okay. The server restarted. This is looking good. Now we just have a terribly ugly looking project, but we have navigation to the home page and to the add a pet page. Great. Next thing is use Keycloak for that. You can sleep. Yeah, there are some cool services. I think if we were going to do that, I would probably do it, like build it in myself, because the whole point is like learning and testing things. Although I guess I didn't create my own JavaScript framework from scratch, right? Or my own database from scratch. So to what level do we need abstractions? I don't know. Anyway, next things next. We have the list. We have the link to create. We want to look at filtering. So let's go to the home page, and I need to add. Let's add maybe like a search key. Yeah, let's start with that. So let's say I have a bajillion dogs. Like 3 is just way too many for me to keep track of. So I need to add a form here. Crap, I just deleted a form. I'm gonna have to redo all that work I just did. But we can have a form. And that action is going to go to the same route that we're on. And the method is going to be a get method. So far we're good. We don't need to do anything there. And we're going to create, man, I really need to create I'm going to create a component. Stop. Let's create a new file at components / input.jsx. Okay, so what is input going to do? For the time being, it's going to be a const input equals a function that is going to return some JSX. So we're going to put a div, and inside of that, we'll have a label. HTML4 is going to need an ID, and that's going to need some text, and then that's going to have an input as well. Okay, let's start with this. I need to import React from here, don't I? Do I? Maybe I don't. Let's see. Okay, and then we will export default input. You post with a redirect? What's wrong with post with a redirect? Oh, yeah, I didn't finish my redirect. Okay, on the create, yes. Wait, no, maybe it's fine. I think I did finish that. We go to create. We're going to create Stony Eagle, and email is se@dogswithaz.co. Yep, that's good. Submits, sends it back here. If we go to create and we send something that's bad, we get our validation check and it stays here. Cool. That's working as we want. I don't know. Oh, another WebSocket error. That's annoying. Stony at nomercy.tv. No, that is not React. Use this plugin. React Redux, React Native snippets. No. Stop telling me what to do. You're not even my real mom. Okay, so I've got this input. I think that's going to work. And then I want to import that input. So import input from, and this can go / components / input.jsx. We're going to put that input in here. Yeah. Okay. And then I need a button to do whatever. We'll do search. Okay, back on the home page, we have our input. That's looking good. And we have search. Okay. So now every input needs a name equals search. Every input probably should have an ID, but because it's a component, RFCE tab. Yeah, I know. It's one of those that like helps create create is it components easily. It's fine. This is what I want my input to look like. I want it to have the name. I also want it to take a label equals search, and then I want it to take a type, but in this case, the type is just going to be text field anyway. So let's start with that. In order to hook this up, this input also needs to take an ID. So we're going to take couldn't help that one. In this case, we're going to take some props where we have an ID, a name, a label, and some other stuff. And then I guess other attributes, maybe. So everything that we do not explicitly define, I want to put onto, oops, let's go. I want to put onto the input. That way, you choose a lazy person to do a hard job because a lazy person will find an easy way to do it. Yeah, I would too, but I also need to learn some of this stuff. So let's put the label in there. And let's see what we've got so far. Reload. Okay, cool. We've got the markup is looking good. We've got our div. We've got our label. We've got the input text. If I add something onto, not create, if I add something on here like class name equals, I don't know, yo, we should see that reflected on the input class. That's right. There's just one problem here is because I kind of want this class name to actually go onto the wrapper component. So we're going to do that class name equals class name. Add that. And then we need to do this. If the ID is provided, we want to use that ID. Otherwise, we want it to fall back to a default value, which we can randomly generate. So I need another file or another folder. Well, we'll start with a file called utils.js. And then we're going to say export, or what is it? Function random string. I don't know what happened, but GitHub Copilot stopped working on me. Oh, it's because I'm in WSL. Dang it. That's all right. Because I can go to GitHub, Austin Gill, utils, and I've got a bunch of utilities such as random string, where I can just copy and paste that. Export. And I think I want export function random string. Cool. Yeah, this is fine for now. Okay, so I've got this random string. So now my input, I need to import that. Import boop boop from dot dot slash dot dot slash. No. Utils. There we go. And this is going to be random string. So random string, I believe, is hexadecimal. So I think with an ID, it's okay to start. It's a valid ID if you start with a number, but with classes, that's not valid. So just to play it safe, I'm going to say that ID equals ID, do a ternary. If it's defined, we'll just leave it as is. Otherwise, we're going to assign it to, I don't know, ID dash, and then grab a random string with a character length of like 6 or something. That should be good. And then because that is defined now, we can say that the HTML4 is whatever that ID is going to be, and then the ID of this input is that ID. Great. Let's see what we've got so far. HTML4 is that ID, and our input is that ID. Great. That is handy because now I can just click on this search and it will highlight that input. Awesome. Next thing's next. Next thing is next. This is fine for now, actually. This gets us... No, I guess I also have to do... So the attributes are going to land on here anyway, which means I don't need the type because that will be on there. I do want to explicitly add the name because... Why do I want to explicitly add the name? Because I want to do some sort of validation if the name or the ID, well, if the name or the label are not defined. So I'm going to say if there's not a name, console.warn input is missing a name, whatever. And then we'll do the same for the label. Actually, I'll do that first. Cool. I think I'll move those first. And then that's just kind of some helpful stuff so that when I'm building my application, warning prop, HTML4 did not match server ID. Ah, interesting. So that's interesting because this input has a different ID on the client than it has on the server. And Remix is complaining about that. But I wonder, I mean, that's really not a problem I'm too worried about. So I'm not going to worry about it. Cool. So we've got our search input. We have it set up correctly. It's got a name and a label. If I go here and I exclude the name, everything will look right, but it's actually missing the name. So that's a problem for a number of reasons. So I just want to make sure that that helps me catch any errors. Okay, so label search. Let's say if I wanted to test that the type equals radio, just see what we've got as a result of that. Cool, we do get a radio input. That's great. And we'll just leave that for that. We'll leave that like that for now. So now let's handle this form submission. We're going to bring back the, let's see, we've got the loader data. We want the use action data. And then because we're using action data, we need to export const action equals, it's going to be an async component that does something. That does something. I actually don't know if I do need this action data, because really what I want this form to do is when I search for something, let's say I just search for D, I want that search to update the current route URL and pass that search parameter to the query. And once I have that query, I actually need to grab it in my loader, not necessarily in my action data. So from here, I think I can grab the maybe query. Let's see if I have something that I can use here. Try something out. Let's do that type import from remix. Remix, please. Oh, that's why. At remix run, I think I want to import a node from node, the loader function. Cool. Once I have that, I can make this a type definition that should then maybe provide me with some type values. Yes, it does. Awesome. And guessing, well, that's fine. Okay, so now I have type definitions, which means I have context. I don't know what context is, and it may be on the request. But what I want is that query. So context dot something. No, you're not going to tell me what that is. Request dot. Okay, that does tell me what that is. Is query on here? The body, the URL would help. Let me see what context is. Context and request. And once I have those, I can reload and we can see what we have in there. So context is undefined, which is interesting that it's part of that, but okay. Is there another function over here? I don't know. And then the request, I want the search. Okay, parsed URL. I'm going to pull this up in the docs. Let's go remix.run. Let's do a search in the docs for query. What is the... What is the question mark index query param? Yeah, this is what I want. To do. It'll automatically before you submit a form containing either the layout route if you're submitting 4 different routes. How do I access query parameters from the loader? It feels like, oh, I mean, maybe that's something that I get from the action, but it feels like that should be available in the loader. Loader. Call loaders outside, conventions, loader. Loader. And let's see if query is in here. Maybe it's on params. Oh, that should be, because that would be like the route parameters. Yeah, no, we don't have params. We have the request. So let's see the node request object, but how do I get into this symbol request internals? Oops. Request dot search? No. Well, let's just see what we can get out of this. Maybe the request destination, the request dot. I don't think it would be in the headers. You can try the URL. And see what we've got here. Reload. Undefined and the URL. Okay, well, I don't know if there's a better way to do this, but I can say const URL or URL equals new URL on the request.url. And then we can grab the search from that. Const search equals URL.search. Or is it search params? Don't remember. It's console log URL.search and URL.search params. Maybe the second one. Okay, so the search gives me the actual search string, and the search params is probably what I want. It's the URL search params object. So let's do that. And let's just call that search params. So with the search params object, I can build out more of a query. So I can say if search params.get, and it has a key of search, then I can modify my query. So, Stony, this is a question for you. In Prisma, can I construct my query and then modify it without executing until the await keyword is called? And if that doesn't make any sense to you, the question that I'm essentially asking is, when db.user.findMany, when you execute it like this without the await, let's say like const query equals dbuser dot find many. What up, Danny? Thank you. When we call this or execute this function, this is going to return a promise. And a promise is essentially like an object, some sort of object with a .then method. The problem is, anytime that as soon as you instantiate a promise, it's going to try and execute that promise. So because we're instantiating a promise for a database query, if it actually is a promise, it's going to kick off that query. Now, what I want to do is construct the query, but then modify it programmatically. And only when I actually await the query do I want to kick off that procedure. Now, some libraries, and Stony, I do see that you're telling me it's a promise. However, there are some database libraries that don't actually return promises, but they return objects with a .then method. So they look like a promise, but they are lazily lazy executed. So they aren't executed when you instantiate it. They are only executed when you actually call .then. And await is a fancy, fancy keyword around calling .then basically. So I guess the next question for that is Prisma. What is it? Prisma.io. Why don't I use a debugger or breakpoints instead of console log? Habit. Definitely debugger and breakpoints are generally better. I think that I also prefer the browser breakpoints. Okay, the query isn't executed without awaiting it. That means it's not actually a promise. Yeah, I also don't know how the debugger works when you're in a full stack app where you have part of it executing on like this query, this database query is going to execute within the node context or the backend context. And then on the front end context, I don't know. I don't know. I'm just used to using the console log. Okay, so let's go to the docs, and I want to do a search for lazy execution. Lazy, just lazy. You've never done what I said. When you do your database injection, you put them all in an array and then do a transaction. Yeah, and that would make sense, but this is going to be a single query. I'm not doing multiple queries. I want to modify the existing query. So modify query. Cool. Query builder. SQL query builders. High control, medium productivity. What do I want to modify? Good question. So I've got this query that I want to run find many on, but essentially I want to find many where, like if the search is defined, I only want to find many where the search, like the name, matches the search field. And this should actually be has. Yeah. If it has it, then here's what I want to do is let's say here, let query equal database find many. However, if we have a search, may want to trim the search. That's a good point. If it has a search field, then we're going to say that, like, can I do something like query dot modify somehow? It doesn't look like I can. So how would you do this? Query dot where find many user dot Getting started, concept guides, reference. That's what I want. API reference, please. Client API. Okay. This is a super long page. Okay, let's see. Error format. Model queries. Find unique. Not what I need. Find first. How is find first and find unique different? Let's see. Retrieve a single database record, of course. And find first presumably would also return a single database record. Okay, find many options. Where? Okay. So give you the search example because you're lost in where I think. So essentially, I want to find many. I guess this may be the answer actually. Is yeah, I want to pass where. So okay, let me do this. It seems like I need to pass find many with the params, some dynamically generated parameters. So we're going to say params is just going to be an empty object. And if we have a search parameter, then we're going to say something like params dot where equals. And now I need to I guess I'll keep it simple. We'll say where, what is the name? Name corresponds to search params dot get, and then search, and then dot trim, right? Let's see if this works. If I go back here and I reload, we should have. Oh, it totally worked. Awesome. First try. Cool. Well, that's one way to do filtering. Something that we have to account for here is what if I do a search for, hey, this is not actually what I want because I don't want a strict match. I want a like match. Or name contains query. Am I correct that you want to either search for what the user gives or a fallback result? Yeah, like if the user searches for something, I want to show the list of all users narrowed down by that search query. Otherwise, if they don't search for anything, then show the whole list. So I actually want this. And there must be some sort of like, maybe I can do this. I want to give this a type definition to make life easier for myself. Type of import from remix node dot find, I don't know, what is it? Query? What would that be? I know how to figure it out. Find many takes something. Always cuts you off at the end when I am speaking. Really? Like my mic just cuts out? Yo. Oh, okay. What up, Brent? Hey, third time lucky. Hope of glory. Cool. Yeah, we're doing some database queries with Prisma and trying to figure out how to do. All right, Stony, maybe you can help me on this one. The search that I actually don't want a where clause. I want the SQL equivalent to. Well, I guess I do want a where clause, but where name is like, and I want doot search doot, so that as long as it contains, which is probably what you just explained to me, but yes, where name contains query. So instead of name, you're telling me I can do contains? Let's see. Okay, not quite right because D doesn't contain it. And if I do something like yeah, I got your message, but it's not working because this is an invalid result. Let me bump this up too. We can actually see this. This A does not match D. All the other ones have an A, and if I do a search for D, I'm not getting anything. You, sir, have some keen eagle eyes. Okay, let's put that back in there. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We do a search for D. That works. We do a search for A. I should get everything except the D. Okay, you are correct. Now there is one more issue here. What if I do a search for uppercase A? Oh, it works. Okay, well, remix is... Wait, what? What if I wanted to do case-sensitive search? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't have a good example. Let's create something that's like stoned beagle. Okay, so what if I wanted to do a search for contains baby in case sensitive? Man, these things are cool, but there's some things you just have to really like just spend time learning. So much to learn. You like that, Brent? Case insensitive. Okay. Starts with, ends with, and insensitive. Mode. Okay. Contains that. Mode is insensitive. I want case sensitive, right? I want mode sensitive, I'm guessing. So mode is not insensitive, which was my comment about Stoned Beagle. Pretty insensitive comment. And we're going to do a search for stone. Okay. I probably missed a comma. I did not miss a comma. Unknown arg mode. Title contains. If I can do case insensitive, how do I do sensitive? Sensitive. Oop. Filtering is case sensitive. Okay. So leave that off. So theoretically should work. Stone should be case sensitive, which means I should only see stone to beagle, right? There's another little problem that I have here, which is I want the value here, the default value to equal. Oh, and I need to grab that from the URL as well. So let's see. Let's grab that off the URL. Const. How do I read search params? Console log window. I don't know what I'm doing. Go to the browser for that one. Let's do window.location window.location should have, is search on there? Cool. Search is on there. Is that a URL? No, it's a location object. Is search params on there? Dot search. Okay, so just search. Okay, so we'll do this. We're gonna say const search params equals new URL search params, and we'll pass in the window dot location dot search, and then with those search params, I can set the default value to search params dot get, and we'll pass that to search. Windows not defined. All right, that makes sense on the server side, doesn't make sense on the client side. So, oh man, this is actually kind of frustrating. Okay, how do I get the search location? URL search params. Cool. Based on the loader. Okay. So the loader is going to have the request, which means I'm already doing that. Already getting that. But how do I add that to the input? I guess what I can do is, as part of the data that I return, I can return the search params. And if I return the search params, I probably can't do that as a search params object, which means I'm going to have to do object dot from entries with the URL search param entries, I believe. Once I have that search params object, I can actually pull that from the use loader data, which gives me the search params dot search, or just an empty string. Let's see. Cool. We've got it in there. That's working. Awesome. Man, that issue is kind of annoying, and I think the easiest way to fix it is just to put an ID on this. But I wish I could randomly generate. Well, I can do this. I could randomly generate the ID in my loader, pass that here, and then apply it here. But then that kind of defeats the whole purpose. Like, I'm just going to put an ID. ID equals search. Okay, now that means this error should go away. Cool. Cool. WebSockets, you're failing me. That's all right. So, Stony, let's bring it back to you. You're saying that I should be able to set the mode. I really got to change the search to a fetch API or Axios? No, I don't want to do that. Because the whole point of using Remix is so I'm not doing that. In fact, like, what is the benefit of using the fetch API or Axios? And before you tell me that it doesn't do like the whole page refresh, Remix offers that solution. I'm just not quite there yet. So I want to be working in HTML land. But why is this mode? Okay, starts with, ends with, and no reloading, fast responses. Yeah, you get the same thing with the Remix form component, which we'll get into. For now, I'm happy with the reloads though. Okay, so search. Full text search within a string field. It's currently in preview and only available for Postgres and MySQL. Okay, I don't have search. That's fine. Oh, cool. You can do search for cat or dog or cat and dog. That's cool. Supported by supported by Postgres and MongoDB connectors only. We will be using Postgres, but we currently are using MySQL for local development. So I don't know how I would do a case-sensitive search here, but it's fine. This is actually more like what we want anyway. So here's where we are. Search is working. Let's go home. Everything is currently working as expected. I can look at one, I can edit one, I can delete one, I can go back home. Now, what I want to do is also look at pagination. So, Stony, this is where we get into a discussion. Essentially, well, I'm going to build out pagination the way I know how to do it currently, and then we can modify that as needed. So I'm going to say params where can I do like an offset? Offset? No. How do I do an offset? Ah, it probably does have that. There you go. Remix. No, I never did figure out what this was. That's right. That's why I had this empty. Find many takes is a method that takes some sort of argument, but I don't know what that is. There's no way to get that hint. Like, there's no type definition for that. Form data. What am I listening to? This isn't my kind of music. So it's a. Oh, duh! This isn't even a note or a remix thing. This is a Prisma thing. Prisma. Nothing is available. Really? Prisma clients. There we go. And then we want a Prisma dot basic loop, data source. Is there not like find many args? Haha. User find many args. I bet this is going to work. I don't know, Stony. I think I just figured it out. Pretty sure. So I want to do, let's see. It sounds like skip is going to be where I use it. What is, cursor. That may be what I want. Let me see. Cursor. Where unique input specifies the position for the list. The value typically specifies an ID or another unique value. Okay, so I want to look at skip specifies how many of the returned objects in the list should be skipped. And take specifies how many objects should be returned the list. Okay. So if we say the parameters should only take, and we're going to say 1, I expect when I reload this, we should only see 1 entry. And that's what we do. And then if I say skip, and we say skip 1, I expect it to also return 1, but be offset by 1. And that's what we see. So that's how we do basic pagination. What I would like to do is set the cursor. Let me set the cursor to 2. And we don't need to skip. Okay. Something broke. That's because where unique input typically specifies an ID, and I thought I was specifying an ID. Okay. I have no idea what a user where unique input is. Okay, so let's maybe do a search for this and see if there's an example anywhere. Doesn't look like it. Ah, no, there it is. This type works by exposing any unique fields on the model. Okay. Prisma validator, Prisma are unique. Okay, so maybe the cursor has to be like ID is, and of course it is. Look at that. Yep, where the ID is 2. So if I set the cursor there, it gets me a 0 back. All right, well, I don't know what that is. But essentially what I was trying to explain here is, well, no, let's build the pagination first. Okay, so when we take, we're going to take 1, we're going to skip 0 to begin with. We're going to take, we'll take 1 to begin with. And actually, we're going to set this to skip is const skip is going to equal search params dot, well, we're going to set one step at a time. Search params dot get, and we're going to get a parameter called per page. And if per page is not defined, we're going to set the per page to 10. No, I have this wrong. That's the take. Okay, then take is defined as take. And then const skip is going to equal the search params.get page. We're going to check if it has the page. And if it does, we're going to say that that's going to be search params.page times take or 0. Right, because that's going to be how many we offset. So if we don't have a page defined, we can assume that it's page 0. 0 times 10 is 0. That's how much we want to skip. If we're on page 1, that should still be technically, we're not doing 0 base index. So if we're on page 2, we should see 1 times 10, skip by 10. Okay, something like that, right? So that's going to be the take and the skip. There is a problem here in that we're doing math with search parameters, which are going to be strings. So I'm going to set this to per page. And we're going to say const per page equals search params.get per page. Skip or page is going to be that. If page is defined, then this is going to be take is going to be number of per page, or it's going to default to 10. Skip is going to be set if page is defined. It's going to be number of page. And then we want to make that not a 0 base index, but a 1 based index. All of that times 10. Otherwise, it'll be 0. Something like that. Let's see if I got this right. How are we going to fix this is we also need the list of dogs. And then down here, we'll just add, I don't know, a nav with a link, which should be this doodad. That should be 2 equals, and that's going to be to the current route minus the current page. Well, let's just go to the next page for now. Next page. And we're going to say that that's going to be, I don't know, current route. And I'm just going to do this by hand for now. We're going to try just to get to page 2. So assuming we're on page 1, and we're going to say, and page equals 2. And that's complaining because I'm returning multiple elements. There we go. Okay, let's see. If we click on this, that should take us to page 2. And I actually don't have enough items in my pages. So we're going to set the per page to 1 for now. And reload. Cool. We're getting 1 item per page. It is the first item in the page, which means our offset is working correctly. If we go to page 2, we get the second item. Go to page 3. Well, actually, that doesn't take us to page 3. That just takes us to page 2. Cool. Page 2, paging is working, or pagination is working. Let me actually do this by 2 so that we can see. Cool. 1, 2, next page, 3, and 4. Great. Anyone have questions so far? Or comments? Doo-doo-doo-doo. And I think this is working fine without the action data, so I'm going to get rid of this as well until we need it. All right, my loader is grabbing everything. There's a couple of validation issues here where what happens if someone sets the per page to something that's not a number? No, it's cool if you got other things you're working on. Just curious if people are watching and have questions about what's going on or want me to go into more detail. So if the per page is a string or page is a string instead of a number, well, I guess they're all going to be strings, but if they're not like number-based strings, then this should actually probably be parse int, because we can only ever have full pages, not floats or anything like that. So now what was the question? How do I do next page and previous page? And I think that I have to do some of that on the client, but I might have that here in the search params. If I just dump that onto the page, JSON.stringify that, what are we going to get? Nothing, which makes sense. If we go to page 2, we do get page is 2, so that's cool. And I need something a little bit more elegant than this. And I also need something that is going to account not only for the page, but takes into account if I have a search string here, I want to include that search and have the next page include the search string and the pagination. A couple ways I can think of doing that is actually setting this link as an input that is associated with the form and then essentially submits that form. I think I may do that, actually. Let's see if that can be like a clever solution. I'm going to add another input here. This is going to be label is search, name is search, type is going to be hidden. And then the default value or the name is going to be page. This is not going to work. Nope, that's not going to work. Bad plan, bad plan. Cancel that. Okay, so we're going to have a link. I need to basically need to parse the existing search params into something and then stringify it and just modify the page. Cool. So let's do const okay, let's not call this search params. Let's call this just params. Or maybe query. Yeah, query I like. Query is that. Search params goes there. And then we're going to say const search params is going to equal new URL search params. Whoops. New URL search params. Pass in the query object, which is an object which should work fine for constructing URL search params. What it Control Z plus ZZZ. What are you talking about, Brent? Did you just fall asleep on your keyboard? Okay. Oh, gotcha. Yeah. I saw that was like, yeah, no. Let's not do that. Okay, so search params. Oh, this is going to be tricky. I may need to do something that I don't particularly love, but I think I'm going to do it. Let's do previous page and next page. Const previous params is going to equal new URL search params. I may not need this one. And we're going to set that up. We're going to create a new object where we're going to spread in the existing query parameters, but we're going to set the page to the existing query parameters dot page -1. And then we'll do the same for next one. Man, and this is so weird. The only reason I'm doing this is because I don't have access to the current window object. That's all right. Same thing for next page. And we're going to take this and we're going to say that the query parameters are going to be the current route and that plus previous, no, that should be next params dot to string. Same with previous. Okay, now let's see. If I do a search for stone, I should see searches for stone. That's fine, and that's okay. That takes us to page 1. I should only have, well, let me change it to something with more entries. Let's do a search for the letter A. That should give us 4 entries, of which we see 2 because we have a limit of 2. So if I go to the next page, I should see the search for A and the page of not a number. Awesome. So why do I have not a number? That's because we don't currently have a page. So let's go const current page equals query dot page for 0. And then this page is going to be the current page plus or minus 1. Awesome. Reload that. See next page. Next page now takes us. Current page is not a 0 base index. Should be a 1 base index. And this is a really weird differentiation for client side or server side. I want 0 base index. Client side, I want 1 base index for user experience. So next page looks like it's going to take us to search equals A and page equals 2. That is working. This is working. Previous page takes us search equals A and page equals 1. Booyah. Feeling good about that. Only problem here. What happens if we go from page 1 to page 0? And if current page is undefined, man, there's so many things to account for here. If the current page is not defined, for example, if I just go to the home page, current page is not defined. We somehow get, what is current page? Oh, current page. If current page is undefined, okay, it won't be undefined because it will fall back to 1. Great. What happens if it's 0? And in fact, if it's 0, it should fall back to 1 anyway, which means if current page is, previous params, I can just get rid of this and I don't really need to worry about that. This is fine. So we're going to do this. If previous page, no, if current page equals 1, no, current page greater than 1, and show this thing. All right, we no longer have the previous page because we are on page 1. Great. Now, what happens about the last page? We can't really go to the last page because we don't know when we are on the last page, which means this pagination system is not going to work because we're basically returning all of the entries, but we don't know in data here. We're finding many, but we don't know what the maximum is. So what I want to do is actually have this be, the data should have the list, and then it should also have like the total or something like that. I think that's what I want. Data, yeah, query I'm happy with. I think I want items instead of list. Items, and then total, sure. Which means I need to do a search for the total number of items in the database, which should have, no, not total, maybe size, maybe total, maybe size, I don't know. I should be able to do a query for the count. In Prisma, select count, please. Count all user records. Cool. Prisma user count. Okay, that's easy enough. db.user.count. This is a little bit of a problem that we'll solve in a moment. But let's see if we actually get these results back. The other thing I need to change is now I've got my data and I've got my query, and const doggos equals data dot items. And then let's see if we can get the count down here somewhere. Data dot, was it count? It was total. Let's change it to count so it matches the database a little bit. Okay, reload, and we have a total of 5. That's great. So now that is available to us. And we can say, do a little bit of math. Current page, let's go const last page is going to equal, what is it? The current page times the items per page. Oh man, this is okay. Object from entries, the search param entries. That's my search parameters. I also need these search parameters. Check it against the length of the object entries. Would that be a false value? So when you say against the object entries, are you saying the number of items returned here? Because essentially we're dealing with, when we're dealing with pagination, there's a couple things that we need to be aware of. No, so we want to know the total number of items in the database. And if we're dealing with, let's say, 1,000 items in the database, we don't want to pull all 1,000 items from the database and list them all so that we can get the length of the array. We need to do a separate query, one that returns the, let's say, the 1 through 10 items in the database, and one that returns the maximum count of items in the database. And that way we can do some checking on, what page we should be on. So how we determine the last page is something like the current page times the per page. What is it? It's no. It's the count divided by per page. That doesn't tell us. That doesn't tell us the last page. That tells us how many pages there are. Something like that. So, I need the count, which I'm getting from here, and I need the per page now. The query will either have per page, will only have per page if it's defined in the URL. So I basically need to pass most of the information that I'm doing the query with down to my data so that ideally so that I'm just defining it in one place and not making assumptions of how much the per page is. Although I guess I could do this. I could do const default per page is going to equal 2, and we'll put 10 as a fallback. Default per page, and that should work. This, then we're pretty safe to share across the backend information and the front end information. And so we can say that we've got the current page, we've got the default no, we've got the current page. We've got const per page is going to equal query going to be query dot per page question mark. If there is, we're going to parse that as an integer of query dot per page, and if it's not defined, we'll fall back to default per page. Okay, something like that. So that means the last page is going to be, what did we say? Data.count divided by per page. Let's see if we got this right. Yeah, it's funny because you get kind of close with pagination and then there's still so much work to do. Okay, last page should be 2.5. Perfect. In fact, that tells us that there should be 3 pages, right? So because we're dividing by per page, we're going to say math.ceiling of that, which means we know that there are at least 3 pages. And we're going to do a conditional here to say if the last page is, what is it? No, if the current page plus 1 is greater than the last page, if greater, blah, blah, blah. This is not quite right. Let me get this in place at least. Markup, get all that in place, cool. And then this logic is not quite right. If the current page plus 1, just if the current page is less than the last page, cool. Then we'll show the link to the next page. Okay, so we go to the next page, that's page 2. If we go to the next page, that's page 3. No, that's page 21. Awesome, because obviously, how did that, next page params, that's because current page is not a number. Okay. I think I can do this. I think I need to do it the same sort of way. Check if it exists, and if it does, then we can say parse int on query.page. Okay, that should now, and that should be a ternary. Cool, let's go back home. I don't know why I don't see a previous page there, because I totally should. Okay, so let's go next page, and then we don't see a next page because we are at the maximum. So we can go to previous page, we can go to previous page, and we don't see a previous page because we are at the minimum of page 1. Cool. Now, if we do a search for anything with the letter A, we will see that there are still 3 pages. Is that right? 1, 2. There should not be a third page, I don't think. So I don't have my logic right. I don't have my logic right because the count is returning. I think I need to also pass the parameters to the count, maybe. Let's do a search again for A and see. This is not correct. Urgh. Is there a way, maybe Stony Eagle knows a way to print out or log the SQL that Prisma is trying to execute? I guess log would have been good, right? Logging middleware. Print SQL. There is. Is it log? Log a query event to console. Okay. Log determines the type. Okay, that tells me the logging level. Index log. Log query and info to standard out. Okay, I guess I can do this, and that would log every query. If I go to my database and I say Prisma client, log my queries, please. Prisma media on error. So is it always Prisma media? Or is it just like the database user? Well, let's see what this does. We are going to refetch that. For me, it's just Prisma. Okay. It looks like, cool, we are seeing that query, which is select count all from select main.user.id, where user name like that, order by, and we do have a limit and we do have an offset. So if I do a search for A, I should get more than one page result. All right, so let's see here. On this page, down here, we're saying I have my current page. Just sanity check that that's right. I have my last page as saying page 1 is my last page. And I want to see, I really want to see the data dot, was it count? Okay, I am getting 2 entries back. Which is weird. Now I'm only getting 2 entries back. So I have something wrong with my life. Where 1 equals 1. Okay, so I don't like what I'm doing here, first of all. Default per page. Because I'm passing that stuff in here anyway, I should actually be passing this take and skip. So I think params, query, search params. Yeah, it got me a bit too. I had to turn it down. Okay, so essentially what I have here that I'm not feeling too good about is the naming conventions with params, or for take and skip, when I have those as page and per page. So I think, and then passing those as the query from the search params, like this is not good. I should be okay, what am I doing? I think what I want to do is actually convert this object, maybe this query object first, and say something like const query equals this object. So once I have this object, then I can say something like query.perpage equals this, right? And this is going to be, it's either already going to be defined, or I'm going to assign it, reassign it. And then page, but that's annoying. Don't like it. do. Yeah. Gosh, this naming things is so hard. Because now what I'm saying is I want to build a query that has like a page. Yes, let's just do it. Let's go forward. I'm going to do this. I'm going to say query.page is going to be kind of the same thing we have here. Let's get rid of that. I am committed. I am committed to this. We're going to say is going to be parse int. Oh God, now I can't keep track of what I'm thinking. More hard. Let's see. Per page will either be defined, or if it's undefined, oh gosh, okay. It's such a challenge of trying to do things simply. because at this point, query.perPage may not be defined. So if I try to pass parse int on it, it will fail. So parse int per page, or fall back to the default. Same thing for per page. If it's defined, and this is starting to get real ugly, then we're going to do parse int of query per page, or query page -1 in parentheses times the per page, or it's just going to be 0. If it's defined, we take it. So if it's on page 1, wiggly wobbly swooped, check. Yeah, that's good. Naming lines for an array. Okay, I think I've got that set up. This is fine. And then we already have this logic handled now and this logic. And take is going to be query dot per page, I think. And skip is going to be query dot page times query dot per page. Okay. Which means page is just going to be that. We don't need this part. It's going to be either be that or 0. Cool. We have one more issue here, which is that per page cannot be smaller than, let's say, 1. So math.max, the largest value between all of that and 1, right? Per page, minimum per page is 1. Okay, cool. I guess we could, 1 is fine. And then this one, let me pull that onto another line. Let's copy paste. Let's get rid of that. This is the logic there. And then I'm just going to reassign it here. Cool. Good enough. Query.page is going to be that. We also want to do the same thing where we're going to have math.min. The smallest page possible is 0. Cool. That protects us a bit. Now we can actually start to do some things here where we can say, instead of the query being all of this information, we can just pass the whole query thing back. And why did I do all that? So that I actually have access to everything that's being queried here, which I think, do I have that here? Let's see. Object's not valid. Yeah, okay. That's what I figured. That's unfortunate. View is better. JSON. JSON.stringify query. Cool. And we have page is 0, which makes sense. And per page is 2. Okay, and because we've done all of this work, I don't think we actually need to do this calculation. We can just say current page equals that page plus 1, because we want to make it a 1 base index, and because we know the query per page is going to be assigned, and we're already going to be handling this default value, we actually don't need to do all of this either. So just so I don't have to rewrite anything, I'm going to pull that out of there. And then everything else should be working as intended. Cool, I think. So now the only question I have is, why is my count off? So I'm passing the query parameters, passing the data. All right, let's set this to 10 and just see how many we have in here. I should see 5 items. I do see 5 items. If I do a search for any item with the letter A, I should see 4 items. And I do see 4 items. Search per page, page is 0, looks good. If I change that back to 2 and I reload, I see 2 items, and I see that, what is this? Current page, last page, and count is 2. Why is count? Count is 2 because we are doing a limit. Dang it, that was dumb. Because we're essentially limiting the items to match that. Okay, so count should be params, but we have to remove the where clause. This actually doesn't even need to be a let. This can be const. And this is going to be count params. So annoying. Params. Pass that to the count query. That's what the problem was. What are we getting red squigglies? Cannot redeclare block scoped variable params. Equals. Thank you. All set. So now we should see same problem. Oh, because I have a skip. Okay. I shouldn't have a take. I shouldn't have a skip. Let's take this out. Or let's say count params dot where equals params dot where. That should tell us, that should do it. We no longer have the take and skip. Take was the problem. Take was the problem. And skip. There we go. Okay, got it. Next page. Page equals, per page equals 2 and page equals 2. Why am I still seeing the first 2 items? I don't know. Seems like I'm still on page 1. Per page and page equals 0. Getting close. Getting close. Bow, bow, bow. Bow. Okay, so I'm no longer limiting. I should see next. Okay, let's start with home. Reload. Cool. We're on page 0 technically, but page 1 as far as the front end is concerned. We do a search for anything with the letter A. We do not see that letter D. That's good, but that tells us that there is a total. We are currently on page 1. We are showing 2 items per page, and there is a maximum of. No, is that right? There's a maximum of 4 items, which is right. Okay. I think this is correct. We'll leave that query in there. So the only problem is next page sends us to per page and page equals 2, but it doesn't actually change things for us, which means that the query is no longer working. So params. That's because we're using. No, that's fine. Well, let's see what we've got at this point. Console log query and params. And let's see here. Where are we? I'm just going to reload everything and start from scratch. Let's see what we got. Okay, we've got the query, and we've got take of 2 and skip of 0, because per page is 2 and page is 0. So page is not correct. Page, we're looking for page 2. Okay, that's the problem. Page, we're looking for page 2. Page, we're pulling because we're. What is query at this point? Or what is. Let me see. New URL search params from window. Oops. Window.location.search. Cool. Let's do object.from entries on that and get the entries. Object is not defined. Object. Oh, object, please. Okay. So page should be two. I see the problem. I've got my logic wrong. This should be the maximum number. The current page should be the max between the current page or 0. And per page should be the maximum number. Yes. Okay. That was my fault. Obviously, I'm the only one working on this project right now. Cool. So looks like that reloaded. We can go to the previous page and we see all of the things with the letter A. All right, great. That is as far as I'm going to take pagination and filtering. I think there was probably a lot that we didn't cover. Yes, there were some things that we definitely did not cover here. And that is things like, well, I think I'm going to have to do some data migration so we have some more interesting data to work with before we can start looking at more complex filtering. And if you want a sneak peek on that, The question that we're going to try and answer is, right now we are doing one search based on the name, but what if we wanted to combine multiple searches? Or what if we wanted to order by? And what if we wanted to change ascending or descending order? So what I want to look at is maybe things like, I don't know. Well, the complex queries would be supporting multiple order by and multiple orders, if that makes sense. If you've done SQL stuff, that should make sense. If you have not done SQL stuff, then the equivalent would be like, what if I wanted to order by name? So I have them in alphabetical order. And then in addition, if two animals have the same name, then I want to order those ones based on their birthdays, stuff like that. And that can get really complicated. And that's kind of complicated to do. Well, that's actually relatively easy to do in SQL, but how do you communicate that that's what you want to do from the front end to the back end without it being like totally unwieldy? I've done it a couple of times and it's hard, and so we'll try and do that. And we still didn't get to one of the things that I wanted to cover today, but that's for next time. When is next time? Next time is Friday, 2 days from now at 1:30 Pacific Standard. And I think that's all the information you need. All right. Let's see if there's someone that we want to jump on. Oh. I think ljtech.ca. He is consistently streaming at the end of my shows. Anyone else? I feel like there should be some other people that I should be following. Meh. All right. I'm going to raid ljtech.ca. Oh, I'm on the wrong thing. Great. Now I don't know how to do it. There we go. All right. Thanks for hanging out, everyone. Once again, yeah, come by next time and hopefully we'll do some more interesting stuff. And eventually I'll get into making this actually look not so terrible. But right now we're just dealing with the data. So until next time, catch you later.